We're delighted to bring you this webinar in partnership with Amazon DSP. And so without further ado, let me introduce you to Gemma Jones, a Senior Business Development Manager at Amazon DSP. Welcome, Gemma.
Thank you, Seema. Great to be here. And this is our third event in the series. I'm kind of sad that we're coming to the end.
Well, I'm sure we can do more. But
yeah, absolutely. But it's been fabulous. For those of you who've not caught the first two events, they are on the website and the link will be at the end of the presentation. But welcome to our third, Life in Logistics. We have covered over the course of these three seminars, these three webinars, we've covered confidence and resilience with women, female entrepreneurs. We've covered time management, and now we are here sort of shining a spotlight on logistics. My name is Gemma Jones, and I am, as Seema said, a Senior Business Development Manager within the Amazon Delivery Service Partner Program team. That is an absolute mouthful. What does that even mean? Basically, it means I work on a program within last mile logistics where we support people to start their own business from scratch in last mile delivery. It's an awesome opportunity for people to get a foot in the door of logistics and start your own business. I am going to talk about that in future events, so we're not going to go into too much detail on that right now, but if anybody is interested, just please reach out. Today, we really want to focus on that core life in logistics, understand a little bit more about what logistics has to offer, and really get into the weeds of that with our awesome panelists.
Gemma,
yeah.
before you introduce all those fabulous panelists, I want to tell everyone a little bit more about you, because you'll probably skip past that part. So I just want to let everyone know, actually, Gemma's got a really interesting career journey. She was commissioned into the Royal Navy in 2008 as a warfare officer, and then served in several different ships, including HMS Bockleby, and deployed as part of NATO task force to Libya during the Arab Spring, as well as a deployment in HMS Pembroke to the Arabian Gulf. Gemma completed a 15-month Pashto language course and tour of Afghanistan as a cultural specialist. She left the Royal Navy after 11 years and joined Amazon as the military recruiter for UK operations before moving up to lead the EU military recruitment team. After 2 years of recruiting hundreds of service leavers and veterans into the Amazon world of logistics and operations, Gemma made the move into Amazon Logistics, working on the programs that she's going to talk about now, impacting last mile logistics. So brilliant, Gemma. Over to you for the rest of the time.
Gosh, I'd never tire of hearing that little summary of myself. Thank you. Okay, fabulous. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the scene with a little bit of context before we launch into sort of our Q&A with our panel members, and they'll talk to you about their career journeys and want to hear all about them. Okay, so we're going to start with a few slides about logistics, about women in logistics, and see where we're at currently in the UK. An overview of the logistics industry in the UK. It's actually a £127 billion economy in the UK. It's a sector that brings in a fair chunk of probably our GDP. And there are over 205,000 small and medium-sized enterprises in the logistics sector. And 2.54 million people are working in the haulage and logistics industry in the UK. It is the sector is the UK's 5th largest employer. It is mammoth. I mean, and when people think about logistics, they don't often realize the level of infiltration it has in day-to-day life. From retail, fashion, travel, technology, every part of our life is touched by logistics, and the sector is vast, it is interesting, it is dynamic, and it's not usually how people really think about it. And I think the pandemic has really shown over the last couple of years, hopefully that's in the past now, but that it really is a core function, and we're incredibly dependent on a very stable and secure supply chain. I mean, just look what happened when that one ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. So that's what we're looking at, really, when we think about logistics. That's how important it really is, and it's a massive sector, and women are just not really taking advantage of that as much as we could be. So we're here today to talk about that, to try and move that needle, to try and maybe influence, to try and maybe showcase how awesome it is, and see what we can do by getting more of you to come and join us over here in logistics. So let's have a look at the women in logistics then. 20%. of the logistics workforce is female, 20%, which means the other 80% are men. And when we look in sort of finer detail, only 1% of truck drivers are female, only 1%. But at the same time, there is a PwC report that states that companies with the most women board directors outperformed those with the least by an incredible 16% in return on sales and by 26% in return on invested capital. I think what we know anecdotally, what the data tells us, what the metrics tell us, is that women can have a very, very valuable role in a company at all levels. We bring home the bacon, you know, we can add value in every different area. And I think when we think about why are we still at 20% in logistics, why is that? I think we can probably give some sort of personal thoughts about why that is, some opinions. But I think ultimately it's probably a mixture of a few different factors. Ranging from the stereotypes, the perceptions, the previous industry, what it looked like. If we could just move to the next slide, I think. Thank you. So here we go. So why? Potentially the working conditions. We think about truck drivers specifically. There's been a lot in the press over the last couple of years around that subject. And then poor perception of career opportunities, but it's misplaced in reality, because the sheer magnitude of the logistics sector means that there are roles in business development, like me, customer service, sales, IT. Supply chain is incredibly complex, and we need people in roles in those positions that can collaborate, work together, that are clever, that can lead programs, that can manage people. And there's no reason why women shouldn't be thriving in those roles. Okay, so I think there's a mixture of reasons why, and then look at the future. Said e-commerce will grow by 17% annually, representing about 20% of global retail share in 2023. And 82% of all consumers have shopped online in a 3-month period. Definitely I'm included in that. A total of 2.1 billion people are expected to buy goods online by 2021. So it's an incredible industry that is absolutely still growing. And what we're going to do now, we're going to do a very quick interactive section to the webinar. If you can grab your smartphones and scan the QR code or join at slido.com. And we've got a couple of questions for you all. I'm going to join in too, so I'm going to scan the QR code. Right, so what one word summarizes your perception of a career in logistics? When you think of logistics, what comes to mind? What is your first thought? Let's see where we end up with this. Immense. Well, that's a good one. A random number. that's the code if anybody needs it. Travel, shipping. Absolutely. I'm going to write my word in. That's mine. Complexity. I think that's supposed to be fast moving. Somebody's got a typo there. Operational, absolutely. Fascinating, for sure. Rewarding, definitely. Oh, these are all really positive words. Gosh, you're kind of throwing me a little bit. Hard work, it absolutely is. Absolutely. Varied. Demanding. Masculine, interesting. Yeah, well, it is, isn't it? 80%. 80%. Collaboration, yeah, for sure. Laborious, maybe in some situations. Exciting, I think definitely that's in there too. So actually I'm really surprised. Look at all these really positive words that you're all associating with the world of logistics. Our job here is done. Fantastic. Absolutely. I think difficult, yeah. I think that's not wrong either. I think that there are difficulties there. I think there are challenges. I think that it is a fast-moving industry with lots of change, lots of opportunity though, with tech coming in as well. Should we go to the next question? Okay, so this one, if you're not already in logistics, or maybe back in the day when you were thinking about it, what would attract you? What do you think you would need to think, actually, that I'm going to go for logistics? That's where I'm going to go. That's where my career path's going to take me. What would do that for you? Flexibility. going to copy that one because flexibility is mine too. Availability of jobs. Absolutely. Good pay. Yeah. Owning a business. Yeah, absolutely. Come and see me about that. That's fine. Yeah. And I think we probably need to do a better job generally at really showcasing what there is to offer in the world of logistics, for sure. Any more? I think we can work with that there. Well, we're going to hear about all of this from our panelists in a few minutes. They've got a variety of experience on the panel who've worked in possibly every different element of logistics that we can possibly think of. And it's going to be great to hear their stories. Should we, stable work? Yeah, that's a good one as well. Career development opportunities, 100%. Some nice words there, some nice contributions. Thank you, everybody. Right, should we move to the next slide, please? Right, so there are many faces of logistics. It's not all about the forklift truck or the HGV. It's about technology, it's about growth, it's about opportunity, it's about complexity, collaboration, program management. I mean, I have no career history in logistics, and here I am, a senior business development manager in logistics. So I can do it. Honestly, the door is definitely open. Right, let's not waste any more time listening to me. So let's move on to the next slide and our panel. I'm super excited for today's panel. We have a great cross section, and just by accident we've got a few also, obviously I am ex-military, we've got a few ex-military on the panel today and ex-police. That was not by design, that was purely accidental. And we have the fabulous Kelly Warburton, MD of Unipart Rail, with us. We've got Naomi Gale, UK Operations Director from Amazon Transportation Services, shipped with Amazon. We've got Casey Alm, Senior Manager, UK Operational Execution within Amazon Logistics, and Emma McCormick, a Pathways Operations Manager from Amazon Transportation Services as well. So I'm going to ask you all, should we start with Emma, since you're the next one on the slide? And if you'd like to come on camera and just give us a quick overview of your not, you know, we'll go into more detail later, but just a quick overview of what you do at the moment for Amazon.
Hi Gemma, thank you. I'm site leader at a middle mile site for Amazon in Surrey. I've got about 350 people currently working for me, split across day and night shifts, and we're here to add capacity and speed into Amazon's network, and we do that all through manual sortation.
Amazing, amazing. We're going to come on to how you got there in a few minutes, but I'm just going to bring the rest of the panel on. So Casey, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. What is your current role within Amazon, just in a sort of snapshot, if you can?
Yeah, what is ops execution? So the easiest way to explain it is in Amazon Logistics. So that's the last mile services. We have all of our operational teams, and then my team does any kind of countrywide project. So primarily right now, we're looking at DEI initiatives in stations. We're looking at sustainability. So that's both under our roof. So how are we more sustainable, reduce, reuse, work on electricity, et cetera, as well as over the road. So using cyclists, walkers, et cetera. And then I also look at organizational design. So how do we set ourselves up for success?
Amazing. And we're going to hear about how you got there as well in a few minutes. Next, Naomi, welcome. UK Operations Director with Amazon Transportation Services, also middle mile like Emma, but focusing on shipped with Amazon. Could you just give us a quick overview of your current role?
Sure. Like, that was a very long title with lots of words in it, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. UK Ops Director for Ship with Amazon, which is a fairly new part of Amazon. About 40% of our shipments are stored in our warehouses, which means that are sold on the Amazon website, which leaves about 60% that private sellers are selling, who previously only had the opportunity to use commercial carriers to deliver their goods. So it's trying to externalize the Amazon network to make, I guess, that opportunity available for both private sellers that are selling on Amazon, but not stored in our warehouses, but also how can we externalize that further to offer that service to other companies.
Amazing. Fantastic, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Kelly, Kelly Warburton, Managing Director of Unipart Rail. Could you just give us obviously not from Amazon, so we've got a little bit of a diversity going on. Could you just give us a quick overview of your role at the moment?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Gemma. So my role working for Unipart Rail, as the title would suggest, is in the rail industry. So my role is focused on both the UK and Europe, and it's all about focused on delivering product, whether that's products and materials we manufacture or products we actually buy in, stock and then ship. But it's providing those materials and those products to the whole of the rail industry, whether that's to the infrastructure. So that's kind of the track, the signals, the overhead lines you would see, or whether that's actually to the actual trains themselves, and that's across, like I said, the UK and Europe. So very much focused on delivery to the customer. So that's me.
Exciting. Right, so let's get into the thick of it. How did you all end up where you are? So let's go back to Emma. Emma, you are like me, Royal Navy Senior Service. How have you ended up as a site lead running a middle mile? How has that happened? Because obviously from driving ships to running a logistics site. Can you talk us through that journey?
So I don't like to say anything happens by mistake in life, but sometimes that path is laid down for you and you just need to say, there's an opportunity and I'm going to take it. But I actually researched what I wanted for a second career because I'd spent 21 years in the Navy. So it was important for me to find somewhere where I could feel settled if indeed I was going to take it on a second career. So I knew that I had things that I wanted, company ethics that I wanted to see and be part of a company that valued veteran and service status, and had a real community that I felt that I could be part of. And it was actually meeting you, Gemma, through a careers fair in Southampton. And I don't know if you remember this, but you had a young man assisting you on the Amazon stand, and he was 21 years old, fresh out of university, and there was a huge queue waiting to see Gemma. So I stood to one side and I just took the opportunity to speak to this young man. I said to him, why do you work at Amazon, and why are you here today? Why is it a good fit for people looking to go into logistics? And he said, my voice counts. And at 21 years old, fresh out of university, and knowing that he was having that sort of impact and felt that way in a global company was really powerful. And it was something that I wanted to be part of.
Fantastic. And how are you finding logistics versus the military? Is it a bit of a step change?
Slight step change. It's hard to quantify what I expected from a career, but as I say, I knew what I wanted, and I knew leading people, getting stuck into something new, having the opportunity to innovate, they were all things that were really important to me, which had been, as you would expect, slightly curtailed within a military career because of the restrictions naturally that surround that sort of role. So being able to satisfy those needs for myself, I found it a really cool transition.
Yeah.
I've worked in first mile logistics and middle mile logistics so far within 2 years within Amazon, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Yeah. It's almost that the leadership, it wasn't necessarily almost that it was logistics, but it was what logistics could offer you as an industry. Really interesting. Thank you, Emma. We'll come back to you later. So Casey, to you. Also, did you end up here sort of by design? You've had a few different roles with Amazon within logistics. So maybe talk us through that, and maybe which was your favorite out of all of those that you've done so far?
Yeah, sure. It definitely wasn't by design. So I think it was for me, I came from the military as well, and I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I knew Amazon had a lot of different offerings, so I would go in there and figure it out. And then once I came, I would say what kept me in logistics is curiosity. So I started in first mile and I wanted to know, where does this go to? And then I followed it to last mile, and then, well, how did it get there? So then I went to middle mile. So I've done first, middle, and last, and I'm probably a little biased. I'm back in last mile now, and I think it's because it's my favorite. it's unbelievable to think a package would not get to a customer, which means we get to be very innovative, scrappy, figure out how it gets there. So it's just very exciting. And when I think about the aspects that I wanted from a career, so being able to innovate, being able to think strategically and make an impact and see that impact in real time, it's exactly where I wanted to be.
Yeah, I think that's with logistics, you can really see that. I think that's one of the things I like about this sector, that you can add value to people's lives with simple steps, simple actions. I mean, when we think about Amazon, and got a really bad story about how I needed something for my kid's birthday, and I ended up going to the Prime Now site that's not far from my house, ordering online, and then they left it outside my door overnight, which was secure. And then when I woke up the next morning, what I needed was there on the doorstep. I think it was a SIM card for his camera for when he was 3 years old, when I thought that was important, you know, to get that directly on his birthday, or he wouldn't realize. But you know, those things were helpful for me, right? And I think that that's what I like about logistics, that it can add that value to somebody's life. Brilliant. I'm going to skip to Kelly before we come back to Naomi. So Kelly, to you, so you are the MD of Unipart Rail. How did you get there? And was it something that you sort of planned? Is logistics something you had in your mind from an early age, or did you, maybe like Emma and Casey, end up there because it offered certain elements to you that you were interested in?
Yeah, I think the key thing is it wasn't planned. It was by accident, but it was a random accident in a way. So when I was at university, I did a languages degree, and I went to Spain, and I was actually placed in the logistics department, and it just seemed, you had the buzz in terms of the culture and the language, but it just seemed the most exciting, full-on department where everything happened and all the really nice people worked. And then when I finished university, I started working immediately in the rail sector in supply chain and logistics. And what was really, really important for me was to have a career where I thought there was a variety of roles. And I think one of the learnings for me is, I think it's still as an industry underrated and a little bit hidden, in terms of, you say the word logistics and people kind of don't really know what that means.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing on these courses is tremendous, because if this just increases, you know, knowledge around what logistics is and what opportunities there are and what does building a career in logistics mean, just by a few percentage, that's amazing. Because my accidental entry into the industry, so even though it's in rail, it's logistics in rail, I look back and think, thank God that happened to me, because I've built a brilliant career. You know, I've stayed with the same organisation for over 18 years. And that's because there's been a variety of different opportunities. You can build this career, and there's so much to do and learn, and there's a great network out there. So, you know, it kind of definitely wasn't planned, but it's something I am grateful for every day, having got into this industry.
Amazing, amazing. I love it. The fact that the logistics department had all the nice people as well in your first taste. Absolutely. And Naomi, to you, I mean, a little bit, maybe obviously coming from the police at the very beginning of your career, how have you found sort of your career path through logistics, and what sort of attracted you in the first place? You've also had a variety of roles, I think, within Amazon. So I guess a couple of questions in there. So how did you get into it? What attracted you, and how have you found it?
Yeah, I guess same as a couple of the other panelists, really, by accident. I didn't finish school, I didn't go to university, I never really knew what I wanted to do, but certainly, like, if I'd had careers advice and they said logistics, in my head, and going back to your first question, my perception would have been, there's no way I'm going to be in a warehouse with big boots and a high-vis jacket. It's just not kind of the sexy environment, I guess. But yeah, like, fast forward 9 years in the police, and then I changed location, so I went to a temping agency just to see what was out there, and they said, how about this job in DHL, working on the Amazon contract? I thought, I know nothing about trucks or trailers or anything, but it sounds exciting and I like challenges. So total accident, really, that I ended up there, and then transitioned across to Amazon. And kind of ran and set up the transport network for Amazon Logistics 8 years ago, when it was very small in the UK. And even at that point thought, someone's going to suss me that I know nothing about trailers, and people kept talking about curtain siders and box trailers, and I was thinking, I don't know any of this. Yeah, exactly that. But yeah, and then worked in that area for 4 years, and then kind of got to the point where I was not having to think so much. And like, even as a child, my mum said I was a nightmare if I didn't use my brain. So I kind of moved across and started running a sort centre similar to Emma. And again, so I'm not sure I'm qualified for this, but like the challenges were amazing. Moved over to program management and then back into sort centre management, and then ended up where I am today. But yeah, like the diversity of roles that are available, back to kind of Kelly's point, I guess, what does logistics mean? If you'd asked me at school, I would not have realised that there were so many different roles that are encompassed within that. And that's what's so exciting. I think, like I say, I've moved roles multiple times in the 8 years career that I've had at Amazon, and like I still get up in the morning and still feel challenged and still feel excited, both about the opportunities in front of me, but also knowing that there's all these different options once I do stop learning that I can move in.
Amazing, fantastic, thank you. Right, let's bump back to Kelly a second. Kelly, what does the day look like for you? What's a day in a life?
Oh, my day. Well, there are no 2 days the same, so every day is different. But if I kind of pocket it in 2 halves, really, my focus is either about the customer, and that's always about delivering to the customer. What's the customer looking for? It's really important to get the material to the customer when the customer needs it, because the implication of not getting that material to the customer means, you know, either work on the track can't go ahead, or even worse, a train can't get into service, and then you've got the knock-on effects to passengers. So, you know, it's kind of a real focus on, you know, how many vehicles are stopped per day, what material we're waiting in, what's the shipments looking like, you know, which customers won which projects, and doing a lot of planning with the team. So there's a lot of activity focused on the customer. The second half is really on my team. So I have the most amazing team ever. And we cover every aspect from, you know, a real start of a customer inquiry, talking around a piece of material, all the way through the whole supply chain to getting it manufactured or purchased and shipped back out. And the team I have cover every single activity of that supply chain. So I spend a lot of time really talking to the team. In fact, when my little girl asks me what I do, I generally just say I talk all day, because I think that's really what I kind of do. But, you know, kind of working with the team, looking on their development, looking on their personal, you know, their personal plans, what's happening in their team, just providing some experience and guidance. So that's the two principal focus, really. But every day is different. I really don't know where the time goes, but it's fun, and that's what I would say about logistics and in rail. It's actually a really fun, interesting industry where you work with great, talented people. So it does get me up every day, and it does get me into the office. And yeah, let's see what happens in, you know, the next day afterwards.
And I can really hear that in your voice as well, that excitement, which is just awesome. And I think a lot of people don't have that in their work life, right? I think that's incredible to have that, and have had it for so long as well. Kelly, fantastic. Emma, back to you. Sort of, you've been with the company in sort of in the logistics space in operations for a couple of years. Were there any stereotypes or prejudgments you've made before you sort of wade into this part of you know, this part of industry, and what were you surprised by?
I don't think I had prejudgments, in all honesty. I think because I came from a very male dominated, orientated background within the military. I think when I left the Royal Navy, we were running at something like 6% women. And
when we left, that dropped down, right, by a couple of points.
Yeah, we detracted. And when I joined Amazon, in one of my first phone calls, someone said, yeah, we've only got 43% of women at the moment, and we're really pushing to get to that 50-50. So we're working hard on making sure that we've got the offer right, that we've got our retention policy right, and that we're making this really flexible work for people. So I was surprised, actually, that there was such a high proportion of women working within the company, and I was actually excited to see what that meant. Now, during my initial part of my career with Amazon, I didn't have any senior females that I had regular day-to-day contact or line management with. So it was in the second year of my career, actually, Naomi was my first general manager that was a female, and I have another one now. And it's actually quite inspiring, because for the majority of my working life, I haven't known what it's like to work with other females. And Amazon has changed that, completely flipped it on its head 180. And it's inspiring, it's powerful, and I really appreciate it.
Amazing, amazing. And absolutely, I couldn't agree more that the diversity in the military is obviously not great. And when I came to Amazon, I was just absolutely floored by the diversity across the board. It was amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, let's go to Casey. So what have been your career highlights across the variety of roles you've had? I know you've been a site lead and a delivery station manager. Was that sort of hands-on, get your hands dirty in the thick of it? Was that your best role? Was that your career highlight? Or was it the role you in now, maybe?
Oh, I think there's highlights from every role. So I think earlier I resonated with what Emma was saying with reaching out to that 21-year-old. So when I first joined, obviously you don't know anything, right? And I was asking, well, why do we do this? Why do we do that? And at the time in the fulfillment center, we didn't know which packages had to go out next. So we wanted to mark them, and we were trying to be frugal. So we started sticking pieces of cardboard in them to say, these are the ones that had to go out next. And a team came around and they looked at it and they said, what are those? And we said, those are flags for what we call a CPT. So the packages have to go. And 6 months later, it's in the tech tool now, and it becomes a global product. And the fact that you can make just a simple change like that, and that can be implemented globally, is wild to me, or was wild to me. And that really, really inspired me, that people trust you, and everyone's voice does matter. So yeah, I think that was probably one of the biggest highlights. Favorite role, it's too hard to say, I think. I don't think I could say.
That's fair enough. We have a think about it and maybe come back to it later. That's fair enough. And Naomi, obviously you know quite worked your way up to the level of director. What have been the challenges that you found in that career journey in logistics? We've heard obviously it's good fun, it's exciting, it's there are challenges there. Could you talk a bit about that? That'd be great.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of not happened by accident, but I've never chased like levels or promotions. I guess I just turn up every day and do the best that I can and solve things that are in front of me and work with great people who have created the platform, I guess. And I think someone said earlier, I feel like sometimes I feel like I've won the lottery really the day that I entered Amazon, because it creates so many opportunities and really kind of rewards like innovative thinking and like passionate people. And one thing I am is, if I'm going to do something, I want to do a good job of it, whether that's kind of in my personal life or in work. And yeah, so challenges I don't feel like I've seen, and particularly whether that's Amazon or, that sounds awful, doesn't it? But
no, it's true. It's true.
Yeah, just keep turning up every day and excited to see what happens, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely fantastic. So I guess, Kelly, the same question to you. What are your challenges? What challenges have you seen? Maybe as a woman in logistics, or maybe just the logistics industry generally. Has maybe for you in Unipart Rail, has it been the sort of tide of technological change that's impacted? That's been, change is always difficult actually. Change management, has that been a challenge?
Yeah, I mean, it's been exciting. You can definitely see how technology is becoming more and more involved, and actually it is really key for development. I think for me, if I give you a personal situation which resonates really well, when I was starting off, I remember being told by, a kind of more senior counterpart was, never forget you need a work-life balance. And I just now think that's such a bizarre statement to make, because I don't think there is a balance. There is an integration of your personal life and your professional life. And the reason I say that, and I think it's become more prominent really over the last couple of years, is, the word balance actually in his very nature says everything is equal, but everything can't be equal. And I think, you know, particularly now where I've got, you know, a 6-year-old child, and I remember, you know, when I was actively pursuing my career, absolutely just working flat out, you know, not chasing promotion, but really doing, you know, exactly as your other panelists have said, you know, really doing your best every single day. But, you know, I was learning, I wanted to learn more, and I wanted to reach out, and the years just really just went by really quickly. I've now got to a situation where I actually think there is a point where you have to integrate your life, because if you actually think, well, I can have everything in equal situations, you can, but actually you can bring your two together. And I think what I've seen, and you know, the kind of mindset for me was, can I have a baby? Can I work and can I have a baby? You know, and I want to work and I want a baby, and can I do the two? Reality is, you can do the two if you allow yourself that kind of bit of a breathing space to say, I might work different hours, but that's what the beauty of logistics is. It's not a 9-to-5 industry, everybody. You know what I mean? So I can work different hours. And actually now, and I suppose, you know, the working practices over the last 2 years have proven this, you know, I can get up and I can start my day, I can have breakfast with my daughter, I can take her to school, I can carry on, I can pick her up. And actually, I'm not missing anything. The job's getting done to the best of my ability. The customers are being satisfied. My team are doing really well. But my home life hasn't suffered, and it's took me a long time to get to there, because, you know, I was always, you know, we've got in rail, I think the percentages of women in rail is about 17%, so it's still a lot less than pure logistics. But I was always told, you know, you've got to put the job first, and yes, you do, but you've got to work out how to still have your own life, because otherwise, you know, so that for me was a challenge, but it's not insurmountable. And that's what I think this industry will do for people to kind of attract talent.
And I guess as a more challenging question, Kelly, to follow up on that, which you don't have to answer if you don't want to, a controversial one. Would you have had that same flexibility if you were more junior in your role? So obviously now you're the MD. Could you have done the school run, the pickups? I mean, would that balance have worked 10 years ago, do you think? Or has the industry just moved on, like modernized?
Definitely moved on. Probably 10 years ago, no, because I still do think it was quite an industry where there wasn't that many females, particularly in senior positions. But I do think it's definitely moved on. And I do think a positive to come out of the pandemic has been this hybrid working, because, you know, organizations have had to trust employees, and employees want to do a good job. You know, a majority of people want to come in and do a really good job and feel personally satisfied and really deliver on the role. And I think really good opportunities are available now, particularly for women in logistics, because you can have that kind of go into the office, work at home, manage the children. And I think because there are lots of organizations who are not, you know, like I said, the 9-to-5, there are the 24/7, there's e-commerce. I put a stat up before about the growth in the e-commerce. I think that will attract loads of talented women to the industry, because there isn't any barriers. And I do think progressively we will move to that. And this is where this kind of program and your drive and having your amazing panelists, I mean, you've all got brilliant careers and you're all really, you know, singing from the heart about your organization. That's what needs to happen more, because this industry has the availability and the options to actually meet what people are looking for externally.
Yeah. Interesting you say about I think one of the points about the program that I work on, the DSP program, it offers, and we have some great women on the program that find that it actually works really well, that they can manage their lives, and if they have children, their family lives around running their own business. So for sure, and I agree, I think it's moved on. And I have a lot of flexibility in my role to sort of pick up the kids, go to the dentist appointments, you know, take them to the soccer practice and fit the work in around it, which is awesome as well. And I mean, it's really positive to see that it's moving in that direction. And on that sort of similar note, I guess, Naomi, you've been sort of at Amazon for 8 years. Have you seen that change as well? Obviously, you've worked in field ops, like in the core functions. Do you think that is a blocker for women? I mean, not necessarily to Amazon, but any of those types of roles that require that sort of different pattern of working in that sort of field ops environment?
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion. Like I do quite a lot of these kind of talks. There is always a lot of discussion around how you create that work-life balance, especially if it's shift work, which for mothers is a lot more difficult. But definitely I've seen the change in terms of like how often it's talked about and how many efforts are being made to try and create the opportunity, which definitely wasn't a point of discussion 8 years ago when I started. And I don't know whether that's to do with like society in general, or the pandemic has made people realize that you're able to do a lot more remote and a lot more flexible working in general, rather than always being boots on the ground, as we say. So definitely the conversation is a lot more like transparent, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. I think I see a lot more of these conversations as well, definitely, which is what we want, right? And Casey, so to you, obviously you've come from the military, you've now got various roles in logistics. Do you have any sort of, I guess, advice or guidance as somebody thinking about entering the world of logistics? What would you say to them? What sort of pointers might you give? Words of wisdom?
I think maybe I would give one that would be, you're probably never going to be in your dream job, because your dream job is always a few steps away, right? So you just have to think about what skills do you have in your portfolio, and where is that next 2 steps, and what skills do you need to add to your portfolio to get there? And I think the beauty of that is it always changes, and you always discover more, and you build your networks, and you move around. So it's less so about the job title or the job role, but more about what you get to do and how you get to develop yourself. So I would really encourage people to, take a risk, step a little bit outside of their boundary, and they might find something that really, excites them and they want to work in.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the beauties of logistics, that it is open to that sort of transferable skill set sort of approach, that you don't necessarily have to have had like a specific career history, as we've demonstrated with this panel, of course.
Exactly. Yeah, coming from the military, I thought I'm not going to know anything when I come in. I had no tangible skills when I joined, is what I thought. And really, you do. You know how to speak with people. You know how to do stakeholder management. You know how to look at productivity, and other things can come over time. We can always learn technical skills, and probably by the time you learn them, they'll be changing and updating anyway. So you just need to continue to work on your skill set, and you probably have far more skills than you expect that you have, and that's our imposter syndrome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, Naomi, I was going to comment when you said earlier about how you didn't think you could do the job in one of the roles that you've had. I thought, gosh, there's a bit of imposter syndrome going on there. You should watch our first webinar that we did on confidence and resilience. It's just talks to that point exactly. And Emma, you have obviously done similar to Casey, that sort of complete shift in industry. What would you say to somebody, because that's quite recent for you, what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about making a complete shift maybe into logistics or even into another industry altogether?
I'd say look at your network around you, and what can you leverage in terms of knowledge, in terms of support, in terms of honest opinion from a peer cohort. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. Use it. Reach out to people. People put their status of which company they're working for a reason. Network with them, ask the questions, because there are so many of us that are so proud to work within the industry that we do, within the company that we do, that we will happily share our stories with you. So I would say network would be absolutely my number one. Number two, for me, I have a mentor. And she has guided me since just prior to joining Amazon. She's actually in Amazon herself, and she has been instrumental in helping me to settle into my career and guiding me on steps to take, where to go, how to get the most from it, how to get that work-life balance correct. So having a mentor has added a lot of richness to what I've been looking at in terms of role. And then finally, if you have the ability, pay that forward, take mentees on underneath you. Even if you don't think that you are an expert in logistics in any way, shape or form, your background and your experience will be absolutely useful to someone else. Exactly like Casey said, have a think about where you've done people management, where you have given advice, where you've handled difficult situations. People will still want to learn from you. So please network, get a mentor, consider taking on mentees as well.
Thank you. Really, really good advice. Absolutely. I actually recently got my very first mentor. It's something that I'd been missing for a while, and absolutely has loads of value, 100%. And Kelly, I guess the same question. Obviously, you've got a long career in logistics, so you've got a wealth of experience in the industry. What would you say to somebody that's maybe leaving school or leaving university and doesn't really know what they want to do, or maybe somebody that's career changing?
What I would say, and I think it's probably based on experiences, go into this industry, find out about it, exactly what Emma said, use your networks, talk to people, particularly if you're younger. There's lots of different options that, you know, people can go to, you know, different seminars or linking with schools. And as an industry, we do need to connect more with schools and really do some education about what this industry is about, because the perception, you know, is very much, you know, as we said earlier, male dominated, maybe lifting boxes, shifting boxes. And it's not. And if you put this into context of a customer and you think about the logistics industry serving the customer, there's so many different aspects of a career. You know, you could be an accountant working in different parts of the logistics industry. You're still in logistics, but you're serving, you know, a customer. You could be actually on the customer service end. You could be actually within the distribution centres. There's a variety of different roles and different skills, but we as kind of ambassadors need to do some education and need to do some a little bit more shouting through the roof. And because, you know, and I will give you a personal kind of recommendation, and really for you guys in Amazon, the work you touched on it earlier, Gemma, the work that Amazon does and the work logistics does, it can really affect people and change people's lives. So couple of weeks ago, I had an unfortunate incident of having 2 masked balaclava men on my drive stealing my car, middle of the night. And as you rush around and you think, God, what did I leave in my car? I realised my little girl had left her fire tablet in. And I didn't want her to be scared, and I didn't want her to be, you know, really worried. So at 4 o'clock in the morning, I went onto Amazon and I ordered a new fire tablet, 10 o'clock in the morning, that was delivered. So 6 hours later, that was delivered. I put her up straight back on. That's a different fire tablet. Now, the person who was in that distribution centre packing that box, and then, you know, the team who was shipping it out, they've delivered something to me as a customer that I can never thank them for. You know, I've now got a situation where my little girl's no idea. There's no, you know, she's got no worries and nothing. So they made a change to my life. And I think if you think about logistics in that sense, it's not about shifting boxes. It's about dealing with a customer, irrespective of what that customer is. So every role is really, really important. And I think we've got to just give some real life context to people to bring it to life about what logistics could be. So that's my shout out as well to you guys at Amazon, because you solved my life at that situation. So thank you.
I know I can't live without my kids' fire tablets either, so for sure. And what great customer obsession you have, Kelly. Absolutely fantastic. I love it. It's one of our top leadership principles. And Naomi, I guess phrasing the kind of following on from what Kelly has said, what can we be doing to, not necessarily Amazon, but the industry, what can we be doing to maybe attract more women? Where are we going wrong with this 20%? And how do we fix that? It's a big question. If you can't completely fix it, but you know, what's your thoughts?
It is a big question, but I think Kelly's absolutely right. I think like advertising that it's not just what the perception is, that it's boots on the ground, high vis jacket is one big part. Like people go to university and specialize in all these different areas and skills, but then don't realize that as an accountant, using the same example, or HR, or multiple different degrees that people do are so relevant within the logistics industry. It's not just trucks, trailers, warehouses. And I think we need to do a better job of that. Even only 2 weeks ago, I went back to my old school and had been asked to do a careers talk. And again, I think just trying to infiltrate some of those opportunities. Word soon spreads, I think, and we've got a lot of good logistics businesses now in the UK that we should be using, like as a platform, using those names almost as like marketing tools themselves.
Absolutely. Well, let's move to some questions that we may have from the audience. I'm just going to open up the Q&A. some of the questions we may have answered through the course of the discussion, but let's just have a quick look. So we have one person attending that says, interesting, you all have backgrounds in other sectors that can be seen as quite male orientated. How would you attract women into logistics who don't have previous experience of what could be seen as tough sectors that could be seen as good preps? I think what they're saying is, obviously, Naomi, Emma, and Casey came from potentially male dominated anyway, so maybe weren't necessarily put off by the stereotype or the perception that logistics is also male dominated. But what would you say to somebody that doesn't have that previous sort of more that experience that you three already had? I guess let's go to Emma on that one.
Okay, so I think any company that I'd be interested in looking at working for if there was a job opportunity is I'd be doing my homework. I'd be seeing what sort of level of females they had employed within the company, at what level they were employed within the company, what their policy for retention was, how they were planning to grow. If they were a savvy company, they would be putting that externally because that's their shop window. And again, that's something that can easily be found for a giant like Amazon. So again, I would really be doing my homework on that company, see what's available externally facing. Ask recruiters questions as well. You don't have to commit. Get to the interview stage, see if you're successful, and decide from there. But you can, once you have those contacts established, you can ask more searching questions, and I think you'll get that feeling. You'll know if it's right for you or if it's a challenge that you're willing to take on at that time.
Really good answer. Thank you, Emma. Another question from Eva. What are the hours like? I always imagine logistics as a non-stop world. I think we've covered that it is kind of non-stop with late night emergencies. Is that the reality? And before I send that to one of you, my husband has just started at Amazon, is in day 3, and he's just been told of the roster for being on call, so that if something goes wrong in the middle of the night, we're going to be woke up by a phone call by the bed. So I would say that, yes, it is 24 hours. However, I think there's a balance. So I think I'm going to send that one to Casey, because you've done obviously a lot of work in fulfillment center, in logistics, and Amazon logistics. What's the reality? How do you make that work as a life when you're on night shift?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think the best part about this is because we are 24 hours, you have coverage 24 hours. So you have teammates that you can rely on. So when you log off of work, you know your teammates got it. And what I always say to my team is you're only as strong as the weakest link, right? So everyone's constantly trying to help each other and level each other up. So yes, there are emergencies in the middle of the night, but yes, there will be someone there to deal with it. So it is a reality, but it doesn't mean you have to be awake 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I've not done core field ops myself. I've always been in the corporate world, but I mean, specifically at Amazon, most of our operations work a 4-day week, 4 longer days, and then the 3 days off, which actually a lot of people really like, even if they're on the night shift. So I think it can offer additional bonuses there as well. All right, next question to Naomi. You mentioned you never chase to get where you are. Was there a reason for that? I get the impression is generally is that men tend to chase promotion, etc., more than women. Has that been anyone's experience, or maybe your
personality? Like when I was at school, I didn't necessarily want a career. I just wanted to be a mum. And then, funnily enough, this is where I end up. So I never had an ambition to progress. I never kind of started in the business and said, this is where I want to get to. In fact, you referred to it earlier, the imposter syndrome piece is definitely like a reality for me. And like I've worked hard on it the last 12, 18 months when I kind of realized how strong it was. But yeah, it was never part of the plan. I do think maybe males chase it more. I don't know whether it's gender related, whether it's just actually part of your personality as to how you kind of want to be and how you want to progress. But yeah, certainly for me it wasn't.
Yeah, and it's an interesting sort of topic, isn't it? And one we've probably not got time to dive into today, but I would recommend anybody to watch the confidence and resilience piece, because we talked about this quite a lot, and how men will, for example, in a job advert, they will see that they meet you know, a woman, well, start with a woman. The woman will see she only meets 7 out of 10 criteria and will decide, oh, I'm not going to apply for that. I don't tick all the boxes. The man will meet 2 out of 10 and be like, I'm definitely going to apply for that. So I think that's probably the best example of that, isn't it? But I agree. It's difficult to sort of gender stereotype it. But for sure, it's awesome that you did sort of progress within Amazon that you could have. Okay, next question. Is it easy to make a sideways move into logistics? Would employers realistically look at a CV with no logistics experience? So hands up on this call, those had no logistics experience when they moved into logistics. So I think that probably answers your question. It's about those transferable skills. And I say this as a former recruiter from talent acquisition in Amazon. It's about showcasing that you have transferable skills. So for example, I know that we will take people with people management, whether that's from manufacturing, from the police, from the military, from retail. You know, this is about those softer skills and about meeting those in the CV rather than the technical ones that can be taught in reality. But that is employer dependent, of course. But again, like Emma said, do your research, reach out to people, figure out what that answer is for that particular employer. And then we have one last one from Jane, a tricky question apparently, so I'm just going to read this out. One of the things I've observed in regarding representation of Black women in managerial roles in logistics is there is little or none sometimes. So my question is, what are the chances of progression for minority, especially Black women in the logistics industry? Very good question, Jane. Thank you. I'm going to hand that question to Kelly and Naomi, but Kelly, potentially start with you on that one.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it is a really important question. And I mean, where I stand, there should be absolutely, in this day and age, no barriers for anybody. And it's really important that we do raise the kind of voice of everybody, because everybody's got a role to play, irrespective of background, beliefs, anything. So, you know, do I think there are still barriers today? I've not come across them myself, but you hear other people say that they've experienced things, so there must be. Is it right? Absolutely not. Should we as leaders tolerate this? Absolutely not. So we have to make sure we've got everything in our power to absolutely stop anybody who's not getting opportunities. I would say I've had the opportunity myself within rail to be involved in you know, kind of EDI groups. And a group is one thing and a policy is another thing, but that connectivity between colleagues, connectivity outside in your own network is really strong, and it's something I do advocate to my teams and, you know, kind of my colleagues. I don't know what it's like within, you know, Amazon, but going from what I've experienced with you guys, I can't imagine there'd be any restrictions for anybody. But again, you know, people raising case studies, people showing what they can do, you know, for me, it's really important, you know, and that's where I would be on that one.
Yeah, I mean, my experience of Amazon has been that it's very diverse, but then again, I come from the military where every person is called Bob and they're a white middle-aged man, so my experience is quite skewed, I guess. But Naomi, obviously you've been at Amazon for 8 years. I mean, I think that we do a lot of work in this space. I think that there is opportunities, but just to you on this question from Jane.
Yeah, I can't really add much more than Kelly, to be honest. Everything that she said, I'll totally like double down on. I think the only possible thing to add is that I think again, in the 8 years that I've been here, there's been so much progression in terms of how much we talk about all the different diversity in general. It's part of like our everyday language, and it certainly wasn't when I started. But yeah, I've never experienced any blockers, whether being female, and I would also wish that that's the same across all different diverse groups.
I think you're absolutely right, Naomi. Gemma, I know you have a call to action. I'm afraid we're at a minute over, so do take a call to action so that I can just then give people some ideas about how to get involved.
Yeah, so we've got the QR code here, which will take you back to our sort of main hub with every woman. and you can obviously see all the content that we've got on there from our 3-part series on confidence and resilience, time management, on the program that I work on, opportunities for business ownership and logistics. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, and then we will be sending out some communication afterwards to invite anybody that wishes to attend to a session specifically talking about some opportunities that we have available. But I think hopefully we answered all the questions, but if there's anything that anybody, please reach out afterwards on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to connect with anybody.
Thank you, Gemma. Thank you, everyone. It's been so insightful and some really fabulous information. And if today's discussion, which was brought to you in partnership with Amazon DSP, as you know, has inspired you to have your own business, to have your own logistics business, if you would like to do that, then we will be sending you links, as Gemma has said, and you can get in touch. And that just leaves me to say thank you all so very much for everyone joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.